All right. Yep. Close that. Go to the beginning. All right. So now we have to talk about what today's lecture is going to be about. So today's lecture is basically going to be how to make profit. So first off, let's say, when do we make profit? Everyone should know when we make profit, right? We make profit when we're attacking something. That's our goal. We 98% of the time don't want to try to kill. Yeah, I'm not reviewing the whole game, but so we 98% of the time we don't want to try to kill. When we attack, we want to gain profit, right? So what do you think is the point of profit? So what do you think profit is? Because we can easily say that when I attack, I want to gain profit. So I want to get something or something like that, right? But we say this word profit a lot. So what do you guys think profit is? So go ahead and post in the comments, what do you think profit is? What do you think the goal of attacking is? If it's not to kill, then what is profit? Attack doesn't equal kill, it equals advantage, if possible. In exchange to gain points with a solid base or eyes. Okay. I'll give a few more people time to comment before I give my theoretical answer. Anyone else have any theories what profit is? Attacking means dying. Okay, so I think you both had it right. Gaining profit is getting an advantage over your opponent or creating an exchange to gain points or something. But I'm going to say the wording that I like best is to make a locally good exchange that is in your favor on a global scale. So, for example, if you've watched my lectures before, I'm always talking about these exchanges and how counting is important and how you want to count how you can judge if something's good or bad for you by seeing how it globally affects the scale of points. When we talk about exchanges, we want to talk about how what we got compares to what our opponent got, or vice versa, what our opponent got compared to what we got, and basically how it relates to each other. So profit is, again, relative to what our opponent gets, so this is true, but the theory behind anything in Go is always how it affects the scale of points and how it affects your advantages or disadvantages. Or how you can get that slight edge over your opponent. It's not about maximizing your value. It's about maximizing the gap between your score and your opponent's score. So in my theory, it would be that profit is about making a locally good exchange. Josekis are basic. Yeah, so you said Josekis are basically an equal profit exchange, right? Yes, it's practically an even exchange. Or it's not always an even exchange. So I would say that's slightly correct, but not always. So a Joseki, you might choose, like, for example, if I play a star point, you approach, and then I Tanuki, then the Joseki here is going to be good for white, because it's 2 stones to 1. So I would say a Joseki is an exchange that theoretically should be even. If it's not, then whoever got the advantage in this corner should have that exact amount disadvantage in another corner to make it even on the board globally. So yes, Josekis normally are even. That is correct. But Josekis on your side of the board, where you first controlled, usually are slightly in your favor. And that's okay, because the Josekis on your opponent's side of the board should be slightly in their favor. So the Fuseki should be a globally even exchange, if both players play perfectly, theoretically. So yes, you would say Joseki is also an exchange. That's pretty much even. The difference would be very, very small if both players play correctly. Now let's talk about attack and defense. So if you're ever had lessons from me, then you would say, then you would have heard me say that when you are playing a big move over and over and over, and if both players evenly play big moves, then both players will be even throughout the rest of the game, right? So, in other words, if I play the biggest move, white plays the second biggest move, and the only difference between black and white is whatever the gap is between the first biggest and the second biggest, and white has Comey, so theoretically, that difference is whatever Comey is. So theoretically, if I play the biggest move, white plays the second biggest move, I play the third biggest move, white plays the fourth biggest move, both players will be dead even or within half a point. Either black or white will have a half-point advantage, depending on what the theory of Comey is. But in theory, both players will be within half a point of each other if both players are evenly playing the biggest move possible on their turn. So how do we get an advantage? How do we get like a 1-point advantage or a 2-point advantage? Well, that actually comes into attack and defense. The attack and defense is where we make the exchanges that are in our favor. So when you attack, it's not about killing your opponent, and this is something I really want to emphasize. When you're looking at your games and seeing how you attacked, don't think, oh, I didn't get that much, I barely got anything. No, think about how much did these stones that you just played get compared to what your opponent got. And then you'll see that your opponent likely only got 2 or 3 points trying to live, and you got maybe 5. That's good profit. That is plenty of profit. That's good, because the exchange rate is in your favor by 2 points. So that attack and defense exchange gained you up 2 points. If you can make a 2-point exchange in your favor, that you should be perfectly fine with that. It's okay to get 1 or 2 points. You're not trying to get a 10-point lead in one variation. You're not trying to get a 20-point lead in just one fight. You're trying to just get a small little lead in different exchanges. And then, as a proof of this, I actually reviewed a student of mine's game. He was an 8Q versus facing a 2Q. And he ended up losing the game by like 25 points, I think. And he was asking me, he's like, what did I do wrong? And then we went through it. And we went through one exchange at a time. And he had within 100 moves, we got to like move 98, I think. And I pointed out to him, I was like, you made 5 exchanges on the board in 98 moves. In the first 100 moves, you had 5 exchanges, basically, or 5 variations exchanges. And in every single section of the board of those exchanges, you lost out just a little bit. So, like, in the top right, he messed up his Joseki and got lost like 5 points. In the bottom left, he did something, and then the top left, and then the bottom left middle, and then the middle, there was another mistake where he could have taken an advantage, but he didn't. But ended up adding up, and I said, by this point, you're probably behind by about 20 points, just for the fact that you have lost out in 5 different places. You've lost out, and they've just all added up. And then he ended up telling me he lost by 25, and I was like, well, see, because already you're down by 20 points. And I pointed out to him, I was like, the 2Q didn't do anything crazy to get a 20-point lead. He just got 3 points here, 7 points here, 5 points here, 5 points here, and then it added up. And it added up quite quickly. So you're not trying to get some major lead over your opponent in attack and defense. You're just trying to get a small little exchange that is in your favor. Now, with that being said, that's the theory I want to argue. So hopefully you understand that theory, that the theory of attack and defense, or attacking your opponent, is to gain something that's slightly better for you than it is for your opponent. It doesn't need to be a lot, it just needs to be enough. And you usually want to do that in Sente. The reason is, when you get to the big move, you get to the second biggest move, and then you make a locally a good exchange by attacking something, right? You attack something, you gain 2 points. Awesome. Then you get to the next big move, and then your opponent gets the next big move. Okay, well, then you're still making those even big move exchanges, but you're up by 2 points because of that fight. So every time you make a fight that's slightly in your favor in Sente, and then get to the next big move, then you're up by whatever that fight was. Or however much you gained to that fight, that's how much you're up by now. Now, granted, there are exceptions to this, and that is when the profit by attacking becomes bigger than the biggest move. So those you have to do a lot of counting and a lot of really accurate calculations. But in general, you normally just want to attack and gain small something in Sente, force them to live small, and then go get the next big move, and it's good enough. And then you simply just win the game, because you just have more points, and it just adds up over time. So the theory is, attack your opponent, and hopefully Sente, more times than not, attack your opponent and gain a small advantage. It's okay if it's small, just gain an advantage, and then go get the next big move. And then if you can do that, then you've profited and you did really good in the fight. Now, it's true, the stronger you get, the more you can maximize that profit, but at the same time, the stronger you get, the stronger your opponent is, where they can stop that profit. But the idea is you want to just get a slight advantage in the exchange over your opponent. Alright, so now that we have the theory that I hopefully explained well enough that you understand it, now we have a theory, I want to also point out what you can look for in order to gain profit. So, it's true that you want to normally get something over your opponent, but that's not always the only profit that you can get. So you want to get something, but there's also other types of profits. And I want to tell you that I can say that there's likely 3 profits that will fit almost every scenario. I won't say all of them because in Go there's always exceptions, but I would say 95% of the scenarios, attack and defense scenarios, yeah, sacrificing is a great defense strategy if it works. But for the 3 profits, I would say there's 3 of them that you can look for. And if you don't find any of those, then likely you can Tanuki and come back to it later. So who wants to take a guess on what the 3 profits are? So we already said 1 is to gain an advantage over your opponent, right? So I would say the first profit would be to gain something. So what do you think the other 2 profits would be? Go ahead and take a guess. So we argued the theory that gaining something is very valuable when you attack, and this is true. Influence, Sente, territory. Ooh. Well, one of them has to be gain, right? Because I just said gain was one of them. So influence, 3 profits. Influence, Sente, territory. Yeah, if you get all 3 in one fight, it's easy. It's great. Well, that would be to gain something, right? You're still gaining. So influence, Sente, and territory, that would be one of the profits, which would be to gain. Can anyone guess what the other 2 profits are? One is to gain. Sacrifice is a defensive maneuver, not an attacking maneuver. Yeah, sacrificing is for defense, not attacking, normally. You normally sacrifice as a defense. The other 2 is if one of the profits is to gain, then on the flip side, another profit could be to take, right? If you can gain as a profit, sacrifice can be for attacking. Yes, reduce points, taking something. Take is the second profit. Sacrifice can be used for attacking. I think you're thinking of making use of Aji to attack. I would say, yes, you feed, like you're saying, sacrifice some stones, like force them to capture something in order to get forcing moves. I would still consider that attacking, rather than sacrificing. I would say I was using the Aji, but I guess you could word it that way. I would normally word it differently, but I understand what you're trying to say. But I would be using the Aji of Dead Stones, probably. Or something like that, yeah. But yeah, using Aji to attack and gain forcing moves and gain profit. Yes, that's a common attack theorem, too. Okay, so one of the profits would be to gain something. You want to make an exchange that's in your favor. Another profit is to take something. You want to make an exchange that is in your favor that reduces your opponent's points. What that means is, so if we both have 70 points, if I gain something by attacking, then I now have 71 or 72, and they still have 70, now I'm 2 points in my favor. So to take something, so we both have 70 points, will be to reduce our opponent's points to like 69 or 68, so now it's 68 to 70, so I'm 2 points and an advantage, so I'm still gaining in the scale of points, so I'm still making profit, but it's by making my opponent lose points rather than myself gain points. So gain and take. These are the 2 most common profits, and usually the 2 you want to focus on. Sometimes reducing gains points, but reduction is not an attack. We're talking about attack, but yes, that is true. When you reduce, you can likely gain stuff, and it's a very good exchange as well. But that wouldn't be a profit. That would be just a reduction. which is a very good reduction if you can reduce and gain something as well. That's why the center is small, but a reduction would not technically be an attack. It would just be a middle game maneuver or a middle game strategy. So, for example, you play open corners, open sides, and then you play the biggest area. The way you deal with the biggest area is you either invade or you reduce. Reducing's easier and usually the better answer, but not always. I would say 60% of the time, reducing is pretty good. But basically, reducing, building your own while pushing theirs down is a good middle game strategy, but not quite attack and defense. Yes. So, when we gain profits, we want to gain something or we want to take something. However, there's a mysterious third profit. And that mysterious third profit is actually one that I think many of you should practice. And that profit is attack to save something. So you want to gain, take, or save. Now, saving something doesn't necessarily affect the scale of the points. Saving something doesn't really change the score, but it prevents your opponent from attacking you and gaining an advantage by them attacking and gaining profit. So it prevents your opponent from attacking you and making profit, which would affect the score or the scale of points. So by attacking to gain strength or attacking to save something, then we prevent our opponent from attacking and gaining something. This is also known as a counterattack. So when we have a weak group, when we have a weak group and we see weakness, instead of just jumping to the center and saving ourselves, sometimes a better maneuver is to actually take advantage of our opponent's weakness in order to save ourselves. Sometimes we can do it in Sente, sometimes we can't, but take advantage of our opponent's weakness in order to save ourselves very efficiently, rather than running away and letting ourselves be attacked. Now, this isn't always possible, but when it is very, very effective. So when you can save yourself by counterattacking, it's extremely effective. Yes, this will be on YouTube. So the three profits are to gain something, where you gain over your opponent and affect the scale of points in your favor. You take something, where you reduce your opponent's points, so the scale of points are still again in your favor. Or you save something, which prevents your opponent from attacking, gaining profit, and affecting the score in their favor. So, gain, take, or save. When you have an attack position, or when you can attack something, or when you see a weakness or a weak group, you want to take advantage of it. You want to gain profit. So whenever you start looking for the profit, try to see which one of the three things are you doing. Are you gaining something? Are you taking something? Or are you going to save something? Are you going to gain something, take something, or save something? These are the three most common things you can do. And if you can't do any of those three, then sometimes it's better just to go somewhere else and save it, because you don't know what to do with it yet. Like if there's a group floating and there's no way to surround it yet and gain profit or gain thickness or something, then it's hard to say what you're going to use that for. So maybe it's good to just invade later and then use that weak group later to gain profit some other way. Or maybe the profits will change in 10 moves or 20 moves. So you don't know. So sometimes if you can't see any of those three things, sometimes saving the weakness for later might be a possible strategy. Not always, but it's possible. But when you attack, you normally want to gain one of those three things. One of the three profits. Gain, take, or save. Now, here is a trick question. When you attack and gain thickness, are you gaining or are you taking points? This is a trick question. When you gain thickness when you attack and gain thickness, does the thickness gain or does it take? What do you think it does? It gains. Says Abra Magician. Gains influence. Well, remember I said this was a trick question. So the answer is when you get thickness, the thickness actually doesn't gain or take. It depends on how you use the thickness, and it can actually do both. Yes, it can be both. Thickness can be used to invade, to take points. It can be used to attack, which can either gain or take points, or save something. Uh, or it can build up an influence, or build up a position, which can gain points. So thickness can actually gain or take. It depends on how you use it. But there is a common trap that many people will fall for, or many Q players will fall for. They will gain thickness and never use that thickness. That means they gain nothing in profit because they never gained, they didn't get any profit. Because if the thickness never gained anything and it never took anything, then what did the thickness do? It did nothing. So therefore, your profit was nothing. Thickness is not profit if it's not used. So, when you attack and make thickness, this is a common mistake I've seen. It's not a very common one, but it's something I have seen players, some of my students do. When you surround something and gain thickness, well, you have to do something with the thickness. You can't just gain thickness for the sake of gaining thickness. It either has to build something, you have to make something out of it, or you have to invade something with it or attack something with it. You have to do something with the thickness. Thickness that doesn't do anything is pointless. And I'll show you a very quick example that I actually saw my Go Club members play. So this isn't the exact position, but it's a very similar position. So it was something along these lines. And let's just say Black played something very simple. So there's a bunch of Josekis and a bunch of fights. Then we played something like this. So there wasn't that large position. And then let's say Black played a very simple move. And then White played Tingen because White's like, nope, I got the influence, I'm getting Tingen. So let's just set up this example. So this is an example. It's not the exact position. But basically, White tried to build up a position to get Tingen. And then Black just kept making points. And then White chose to invade. And Black said, I'm going to play the common Joseki here. Right? This is a very common side Joseki. Basically this type of position. And in the game, he actually played this way or whatever. So in the game, he did it wrong. The actual move was like a clamp. But anyway, the game was playing along something similar to this, where there was a Tingen, there was a lot of influence, and then he gained thickness. And I asked him, I was like, why are you gaining thickness here? Why would you gain thickness? He's like, oh, because in Korea they taught me that the thickness here is very good. I'm like, well, yes, the thickness is normally very good. The thickness is usually quite powerful. I play this variation all the time. But why would you do it on this board, where there's a Tingen, there's a star point, there's a white influence, and it's not like you're going to use it to invade or anything. I asked him, I was like, what is this thickness going to do? Because you can already invade if you're going to invade. You can already reduce if you're going to reduce because you have all these stones. So I asked him, I was like, with these two star points, the Tingen and the side star point, what is this thickness going to be used for? What are you going to gain from it? And he didn't know. The side Joseki, this is something that I think everyone should know, and if you don't, make sure to research it, because this is a common invasion. It's this one, and then you have this, which has two ladders. You have this variation. And then there's like this move, and then you can try to cut the corner with this one or this one. There's like 3/3s, which I still don't know all the 3/3 variations, honestly. I'm still studying it, and I just don't know it well enough. This one has two ladders. The first ladder is to play here. The second ladder is this one. And if Black has both ladders, then you simply play this one. And now Black has a choice to revert it here or play this one. Normally, everyone likes this one because it gets you thickness. I also am a fan of this one. I almost always play this one, like exclusively, just because I love getting the thickness. But in this case, I may choose this one just for the simple fact that there's no use for the thickness. Now, if I said there would be a territorial disadvantage if I gave that entire corner, then maybe I would try something like this, just to change it up. I don't know. I'm not a pro, and I can't play the exact moves. I can only tell you like my reasoning behind my choices. But my argument for him was, why did you gain thickness here when you're not going to be able to use it? Right. So I don't like this thickness when there was no purpose to it. You can reduce without the thickness. You're already invading because you have like K2. You can already destroy this bottom position. The Tengen can't really be attacked very easily because you don't have a Moyo on the right. White has support on the left. So you can't really attack with it. You can't really invade with it or reduce with it, and you're not gaining any points. So it's hard to say what you're going to use this thickness for. So I'm not saying that making the thickness is bad per se. I'm saying that why would you make thickness if you don't have a purpose for it? And when I asked him, I was like, why? What are you going to do with that thickness? He's like, I don't know. Well, then why did you make the thickness? I don't know, because I was told to. Well, that's a horrible reason to play Joseki, right? You don't play Joseki just because you're told to. You don't play a certain variation just because you're told to. You have to understand why you're playing the variation. You have to understand what your goal is or what your purpose is. So if you're building thickness by attacking, you have to do something with that thickness. Otherwise, it's practically dame. Yes, Josekis are very dependent on the board. Don't play the Joseki blindly. It's very important to understand the purpose behind your Joseki and the direction and the strengths and weaknesses of it, so that way you can play it on certain positions and not others. Joseki are only Joseki on certain board positions. Yes, learn to play, not memorize. So, backing up a bit, the three profits: gain, take, or save. Gain, take, or save. These are the three profits I want you to look for when you attack. If you build thickness, that is okay. Building thickness is a valid profit, a very common one, in fact. But you have to do something with the thickness. You either have to gain something. As long as you gain like 5 points and they only have 2 eyes and get 2 points with 2 eyes, and you gain 5 points with that thickness, it's okay. That's still gaining more than your opponent got. You need to make an exchange. It's still good for you. That's perfectly fine. But the thickness has to gain something or take something. Otherwise, if the thickness is dame, then it might be better just to attack it a different way. But you want to get one of the three profits. If you get thickness, thickness is good, but you have to use it. So make sure you're getting one of the three things whenever you attack: gain, take, or save. And that is basically the theory of this lecture. So before we go on to look at this game to pretty much try to see if we can apply this in this game, maybe we can, maybe we can't, I don't know. But before we go on to that, does anyone have any questions about this lecture's theory about the three profits? Any questions? Any questions? Ready to learn. I like how the 9-nod's like, I'm ready to learn, teacher. Teach me. I'm like, I want you to teach me, darn it. You're stronger than I am. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the game. We're just going to wait for a fight. So we're not going to go over a bunch of moves or anything. We're just going to go over the fights. Okay, so now we have our first fight. Now, black just jumped out, so there's a weak group for black, right? And there's also a weak group for white. So what do you think white's profit should be here by attacking these two stones? So if we said, I want to attack those two black stones, they're unsettled, I can pressure them, what should my profit be? What do you think? What should my profit be in, like, this top area of the board? For white. We don't need exact moves. We just want the idea. What is white's profit here? What? How would... You guys saw my mouse go that way, right? That circle made a triangle. And then go down. And then go left. And go up. Okay, in this area, which of the three profits should white aim for? We don't need exact moves yet. First, we need to ask ourselves, what is our goal? Once we establish what our goal is, then we could start looking at certain moves to accomplish that goal and read, and judgment, all that fun stuff. But for starters, what is our profit here? Because if we want to talk exact moves, then I might not be strong enough to do it. Yes, every move has a goal. Every single move you play should have a goal or a purpose. And then the reason you played not allow black top left to get stronger and join top and left sides. Well, we want to either gain something, so we're trying to attack, right? So we want to gain something, take something, or save something. Which of those three should we do? So first we figure out a goal for our turn. Then we would look, like, this is the Clossi approach. We figure out the goal, then we use our instinct to find options to accomplish that goal. We read each of those options, and then we judge which option's the best. So, someone's arguing, keep black unsettled. Save. Yes, the goal here is to defend ourselves. It's to save. It's to help ourselves. So we're not gaining points. We're not taking points. We're trying to save our weakness so our opponent doesn't gain or take points by attacking us. So our goal is actually to defend with potentially a counterattack. Yes, our goal here is to defend, but since there's a weak group, we can defend with hopefully a counterattack. So yes, someone argued that there's an attachment here. We can jump, we can try to make a base. We can go over, we can always go over all these different types of moves to accomplish that goal, but at the end of the day, this lecture is about figuring out which profit we're wanting. So in this case, the profit we want is to help something by attack. So we can take advantage of weakness and make an exchange that helps our weak groups. And then you can go over all the different types of moves to do that. So let's look at the game and see if he did that. So he plays here. Do you think he accomplished his goal? I mean, maybe he didn't accomplish it in the best way, right? So maybe it's not the best move. But do you think white was helping himself by attacking? I think yes. I mean, theoretically, yes. So theoretically, this is a good move. I mean, it's not the best move. I mean, 9-dans can play so much more awesome moves, right? But this is a 12Q. No, he did not. Well, I think he settled himself. I think he's threatening to connect under. I think there's better moves, but I still think white helped himself. So I think the goal was met, just maybe not in the best way. But that's step one. First, you meet the goal, then you find better moves to accomplish that goal, right? Now this move. I think this move is not good. Why? It's Joseki. Why do I think it's not good? I think this move is not good because there's a weak group on the top that you can easily save in one move. There's weakness in the bottom left for... Is that ladder working? I think so. There's a cut right here. True, it's only one stone, but it's a small thing. So, okay, maybe you don't mind the thickness. Fine, but you need to take into account that this exists. There's a weak group on top, so if black chooses to save, which I think he should have, he can go here, he can go here, he can keep you disconnected with some type of move, and then split two weak groups. So I think he's trying to play a big move instead of an urgent move. Now, granted, am I right? I don't know. I'm not a pro. I'm only as strong as I am. But according to the basics tells us weakness first. I told black he can cut white, BT me left, or even R14. Yeah, we should do something to this top side. If it was black's turn, I would say something should be done to the top side, in my opinion. Like, I'm only an amateur Don, but in my opinion, black should help himself by taking advantage of white's weakness. You could go here, yeah, but I kind of like this connection, but I'm not as strong as you, I don't know. I'm a fan of doing something here, maybe even a Hane. Seems nice. Hane, connect, attach. This one, maybe not so much. Yeah, I think here or here are the ones I'm considering. But that's my level. Like, I'm not going to get into what the best move here is, I'm going to get into, I think black should be playing on the top. I think the top is urgent. Oh, bottom right. Yeah. So I think the top was urgent in my opinion. G16. Ooh, that's nice. That looks really cool. Yeah, we can get into, like, anyone could get into how to do something with it. That looks really cool. That's gaining a lot. Anyone can get into how to use the weakness. But the fact is, we're looking at the weakness. That's our first thing. If you're not even looking at the weakness and you're just playing a big move, then you don't even have the goal. So much less worrying about what the best variation is. We're not even in the right area of the board. We don't have the right goal. So the goal is important first. Yeah, the goal is important. But after that, then you can worry about making the best move. So yeah, I think you're. I acknowledge that you're much better than I am. So that's why I'm afraid. That's why I'm afraid of lecturing when a 9-dan's watching. I'm like, oh, I'm saying this and that and this and that, but oh, the 9-dan said I'm wrong. Crap. I don't know. That's why I don't want to get into like moves, because I know my moves aren't the best. I'm not trying to say my moves are the best. I'm trying to argue the theory of the basics. The basics tells us weakness first before the big move. So I think the top side should be more urgent. According to basics, this is true. Now, if a pro tells me wrong, though, okay, then I learn from pro. But I'm going to argue that you should be dealing with the weaknesses first, according to basics, and then we can talk about how to deal with those by looking at the 3 profits or the best way to defend ourselves or something like that. All right, so what goes here? This seems not that great, but let's not get into that. Okay. Still not looking at weaknesses. Ugh. Oh, the Tanukis. Okay, lesson 1 from this game. Don't ignore weaknesses, like, for 10 turns in a row. Okay, so black's going here. Now let's establish this good idea. So black is trying to attack. You know what? I don't wanna go over this move. I was going to argue that black should be playing something to defend himself, and this one doesn't. But I don't want to get into that. Okay, it did somehow. Okay, so now it's white's turn, right? Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, A is the only weak group. Let's ignore the top side, because there's so many weak groups we can't even wrap our head around it. So first we're going to deal with one weak group at a time. So let's say A. White's turn. White has a weak stone at A. I want to save it. But there's some weakness around me, so I can attack that weakness. So when I attack that weakness, do I want to make something, take something, or save something? This one should be obvious. Make something, take something, or save something. Am I wanting to make something with A, take something with A, or gain something with A? Make points, take stones, save your stones. You want to save A. Oh, thanks for the follow, Halidia. Welcome to the insane world of Go. In this case, I would argue you want to save something. So in this case, I would say you can lean right here and run away, and then attack the right side from afar. You could simply run up, which also surrounds the right side, while running away. You could do all kinds of things, but the idea is you want to pressure something in order to gain shape. Oh, cool. So you want to pressure something to gain shape and save yourself. All right, so now let's do another question. Assuming there's no weak groups in the bottom right, let's do Miss Song's plan. Let's say I go here, right? Let's just play a simple variation. We don't need to go into all the fancy reading. Let's just play a super simple variation, right? Well, hey, thanks for the follow, Lexomatic. Let's play a super simple variation. This is a very basic variation. Now, I took advantage of white's weakness. Did I gain something? Did I take something? Or did I save something? Nice. So this black plan, did I make something, take something, or gain something? I did nothing. Made thickness. Ooh. Made thickness. Okay, so does that mean white can just simply play right here and make the thickness dame? White did gain a lot. I'm seeing a lot of people think this plan is bad for black. Thickness needs to be used. So if I just make the thickness dame... Oh, thanks again for the follow. Getting lots of follows. Thanks for the follow, Miss Song. I'm surprised you didn't already follow. I thought you already followed. At the moment, it's doing nothing, huh? Okay. I see a lot of people saying that they don't like this thickness because you gave white points on the top. So we actually sacrificed here. Okay. So I want to argue that if white turns us into dame with this type of move, we can use this thickness to then attack. Either something like this. Let's just play a very simple attack, right? I just jump, jump, jump. And then I can go down, attack down here. And then, in this case, while I'm attacking, let's just play a lot of jumps, Let's say I save myself. Assuming there wasn't a weak group, let's say I save myself. I would say I'm going to gain points in the center while attacking two weak groups. Okay? So argument one for this thing, my argument number one, is that if my opponent tries to reduce this thickness to the point to make a dame, I'm going to be able to attack something and gain points. Okay? So let's say my opponent reduces from a safe way. Let's say they simply... these weak groups make it so hard to use an example. let's say I'm alive. Okay? And then my opponent tries to simply reduce. Right? And then I block. Okay. Well, in this case, the thickness gains some points in the center. So true, it can be reduced, and true, this is not a great example. It's hard to make a great example because of the weak group. But in this case, I think the thickness will at minimum gain 10 points. Can I argue that? I want to say the thickness at minimum will gain 10 points, or I'll be able to attack something and gain 10 points. Can I argue that? Do you guys agree with that argument? I want to argue that this thickness of blacks can gain at least 10 points at minimum. So if you agree with this, that means you need to compare it to say, I gave up the top side, A, for at least 10 points at B. Okay? Now, A is 10 points. Yeah, I think A is only 10 points. Because you already had some points. I think A, you only gained about 10 to 12 points, right? Theoretically, around 10 points. If B gains 10 points, and as we all know, thickness affects the board more than just simple territory, it's 10 points plus whatever might happen in the future. For example, if I get an invasion on the bottom. So this is one I made a very simple variation and finished it with 9. What if instead of 9, get my moves, actually made that thickness and then attacked right here? Or, better yet, let's say I made that thickness and then built a gigantic position. If it wasn't for this weak group, I could have done that. But, you know, I could argue I can do a lot with that thickness. So, in my mind, I think the thickness is much more valuable than 10 points of territory. However, you have to prove it to yourself. So if you don't see how to use the thickness, it's true that the thickness might become dominant. But if you see that you can either attack, you can gain, and it also saves your weak group from far, but we were assuming there wasn't a weak group, so fine. Maybe we don't see that. But if we did have a weak group, we could argue it helps the weak group from far. Sometimes thickness will save stuff too. I think this thickness can do at least one of those three at minimum. Potentially, I think it can do two things. Save something and gain something. Yes, thickness is only useless when you don't know how to use it. But if you know how to use thickness, then it's very, very valuable. So, in my opinion, I think this thickness is really good. That's actually why I really liked Miss Song's idea here, is to just sacrifice one stone to build the thickness. I thought it was really good. But if you don't know how to use it, okay, well, maybe you just don't know how to use thickness yet. Maybe you just haven't learned that yet. Okay, fine, don't worry about it. Then just simply save something. Maybe you don't know how to use it, and maybe thickness, maybe you have to learn how to use thickness, so maybe you read a book, you learn how to use thickness, and that becomes a new way to make profit. But if you don't know how to use thickness, then okay, don't worry about it. Play at your level and learn one thing at a time. If you're saying, I'm going to work on the three profits, I don't know how to use thickness yet, so I'm just going to do one of those three things, and I'm going to make it obvious. Okay, then make it obvious. I'm going to save something while taking points. Fine. You made profit. You're doing great. That's good enough. You don't have to make some leaps and bounds of improvement overnight. You need to learn one thing at a time. Just one thing at a time every time you play. So for the next week, just focus on making those three profits. And then maybe the week after that, you're like, okay, now I understand the three profits. Now I understand when I'm attacking or when I'm dealing with my opponent's weakness, I want to either gain something, take something, or save something. So now I want to learn how to use the thickness, because they said that thickness can be utilized in multiple ways. So I need to learn how to use that. Maybe I want to learn that higher level strategy. Well, okay, then read a book, watch a lecture, and then learn how to use a thickness by making that thickness do one of the three profits. Either use it to invade, take something, use it to build, make something, or use it to support a weak group, save something. But at the end of the day, the attack and defense theory that I wanted to argue today was if you are taking advantage of weakness or attacking or counterattacking, taking advantage of weakness and trying to gain profit, I want to say look for one of those three things in your games when you're trying to profit. Are you making something? Are you taking something? Or are you saving something or helping something? One of those three profits. That is the theme of today's lecture, and that's what I want to argue for you guys to try to do in your own games whenever you see weakness or your opponent's weakness. I want you to try and take advantage of that weakness and gain one of those three things, and that will be a profit. So the next time someone asks you, what do you do when you attack something? Well, you gain profit. Okay, what is profit? One of those three things. Now you have an answer. Now you can actually answer what is profit. Not just gain profit for the sake of gaining profit because that's what you were told to do, but you actually can say, what is the profit I'm gaining? I'm going to gain something, or take something, or I'm going to save something. And that's today's lecture. All right, so does anyone have any questions about this theory, or this lecture theory? Thanks for the donation. It's a huge help. That is my lunch money. Thanks so much. Now, why didn't that play a sound? It should have played a sound. I had the SpongeBob ghost. It should have played a sound. But thanks so much for that. It's a really big help. Any questions about today's lecture? Thickness is only useless. Yep, that's in comments. Okay, so no comments? Okay, so hopefully everyone... It's coffee money. Should be ink. It's my ramen money. What are you talking about? One question. All right, we have a question. Ramen or ramen. Can you repeat all? When you attack or take advantage of weakness, you want to either gain something, take something, or save something. You either want to affect the scale of points in your favor, you want to affect the scale of points in negative your opponent's favor, or you want to prevent your opponent from affecting the scale of points. Bam. whole lecture in like 30 seconds.